Hi everyone, so my name is OUSSAMA AMMAR. I will be your teacher for the next 12 lessons together. So be nice with me, like I'm not so used to talking English. It's a big challenge. I will even make a confession. We had the plan to make me learn something by heart before doing it. I think the last time I learned something by heart, I was 7 years old, and I got 0 in school. Because I cannot even remember the first sentence, and my teacher told me that I was retarded. So there is a lot behind that, and so I tried, and I spent actually a week to try to learn something by heart, and it did not work. So I will do what I do every time. I will just speak my heart, and I hope you will like it. So welcome to this class. This class is not a methodology. Like, there is something that is good in English. You can find a lot of content online with a lot of methodology. You can find to-dos about anything. Like, if you talk about entrepreneurship in English online, there is so much content, so good content, that there is no point to do everything that everybody else do. When we was doing videos in French at the family, we was trying to take that from the US and translate it in French. And not only translate it in the question of a language barrier, but also translate it in question of mindset. Here we are doing something a little bit different. We are creating one-of-a-kind content. We are creating a content in English that is here to give you a mindset, a framework, something you can always go back to, so you can be comfortable with everything else you find online. Like, we want the ambition, and the ambition is quite high, it's to give a European point of view about entrepreneurship. Not an American point of view about entrepreneurship. Not saying that it's bad, it's just a question of context, and we are trying to build our own context. You know, you start by copying, like that's how every artist starts. Like when Proust was a little kid, he was copying famous writer. When Michelangelo was doing painting at beginning, he was copying artists. And there is a point in your life where you need to start to write your own voice, and that's exactly what we will try together. So, first lesson about something very important, something we are talking about from day one at the family, toxicity. Like, when we started the family was 24 hours old, and we wrote our first pitch deck. And by the way, it's a very funny pitch deck, and nothing we wrote inside that pitch deck happened. So it's like every single pitch deck at the beginning. But there is something that stays at the heart of the family. It was the first slide. Why we are doing that? Why we are opening the family? We are opening the family because France is toxic. And now I can say, after traveling in multiple countries around Europe, after launching Barcelona and soon other countries, actually continental Europe is toxic. Like, there is something so specific about our environment and the environment and relationship with entrepreneurship that make it so hard to be an entrepreneur. And that is the toxicity. And the toxicity is a lot of little small things. When we say that, a lot of people complain. They say, no, that's not true. We have BPI. Or that's not true. We have Barcelona governmental grant. Or that's not true. In Bulgaria, there is a guy I know that have a cousin, and he knows someone that has a startup. So you see, it works. So, of course, when we tell people that something is toxic, they understand that something is impossible. When we say entrepreneurship environment is toxic in Europe, they understand it's impossible to be an entrepreneur. But that's not the definition of toxic. Even in the worst toxic life environment, life can happen. You have small bacteria that fight and that they are very strong and they survive. And you have a lot of things that can happen and make it possible. So toxic means, it just means that it's much more harder to succeed as an entrepreneur in France or in Europe in general than it is anywhere else, and especially in Silicon Valley. And why it's toxic? Because it's 1,000 of small things that we cannot define, but we all feel it. It's so hard to manage your paperwork, and you don't have professional service provider that really understand your specificity as an entrepreneur. You spend so much time explaining to your employee why you are doing something. You spend so much time explaining to your family what's happened. There is so much pessimism around us. Like, I will tell you that joke, one of our entrepreneurs, actually it's not a joke, it's a sad story. One of our entrepreneurs did an interview in December. The journalist called, "Hi, I want to write an article about your company, Save, and I'm a little bit skeptical about your numbers. I have the feeling you are lying. And because I heard multiple numbers and it doesn't make sense." So a Save founder said, Damien Morin, "Look, I will give you one very simple numbers. I was doing 100,000 euro in January as a revenue. In December, I did 100,000 revenue a day. That number talks to you?" And the guy replied, "That's impossible. You're lying." And it's not good to lie, you know. I'm a journalist. I will investigate and find out. So Damien stayed quiet and said, "Do you want that I send my certified accounting? It will be available soon." And the journalist started to calm down, and he was like, "But you understand my confusion. I'm doing that job for 25 years. And in 25 years, I never heard a story like that." That's toxicity. Toxicity is about putting people in a mindset where, because something never happened, if it happened, it's impossible. And that kind of thing, when they happen and you are already big, it's fine. But when that kind of thing happens when you are very small and no one is here to protect you and no one is here to stand for you, it can totally change the course of your company. One very good example, Save at the beginning was so scary to open so many shops so fast. Because each time they meet someone, if it was telling them, "What? You open 10 shops? You should slow down. It will always go wrong when you do that so quick." And when he was coming at the family, the only thing we was telling him, "What? Only 10 shops? But like, what are you doing? Are you sleeping?" And he told us that he lived in a kind of schizophrenia for 6 months, asking himself, are they right outside, or are this guy just totally crazy and I'm just with a bunch of dudes that are crazy and I will kill myself? And at one point he told us that he did what he called leap of faith. He decided to just say, "Okay, it's possible, and I will believe in it and I will do it." And I think here, most of you know the story of this company. They fundraised 15 million euro in September after 9 months of activity. And it's one of the most growing companies in Europe right now. They are creating 1,500 jobs this year. And this is why I feel so comfortable to say to people outside when they say that you should not make entrepreneur dream because that's dangerous, I can just say fuck off. You know what? We have 20 companies in our portfolio that are valued more than $10 million on last round after a year and a half. 20 companies. It's not only Save. It's not like we just had luck once. Our methodology proved that if you are very, very ambitious, you can die fast or get big. And that's how you go against this toxicity. So the toxicity can be fight only if you accept the idea that you can get stronger. That to survive to that toxicity, you need to shape yourself. And to get a good image of that, it's exactly like doing sport. Like if you muscle yourself, you will run faster, you will swim faster. And we are talking about mindset muscle. We are talking about changing your perspective so much that you will be able to be sure that whatever people tell you outside, you will be fine to analyze it and take it in your ambition filter and be sure if you keep it or not. And be aware of something. I'm not talking about all this startup frenzy mania. Like, it became so common to be an entrepreneur. And I think we have a huge responsibility in that, and we are fine with that. Like, I think we never had so many bad entrepreneurs trying to be entrepreneurs ever. And that's the best news. You know why? Because it's important to increase the volume, to increase the quality. This idea that because so many people try, the quality entrepreneur get confused and people don't see that they are exceptional is totally wrong. More people are doing something and more the quality of the thing will increase. And that's why we think that anyone can be an entrepreneur. But disclaimer, it doesn't mean that everyone will become an entrepreneur. It doesn't mean that everyone will succeed. It doesn't mean that it will be easy. One of the first complaints we get when we talk about that in Europe, is people come and say, you cannot say that. It's not easy. Of course, who said that it's easy? But a good story is a story that puts hope in the heart of people. Like, we want to listen about every struggle, everything that gets wrong, every single thing that makes the life of people horrible. No one wants to listen about that, and it's fine. Because you need hope. You need to be like, it's like a warming environment. Let's say you have a child. Maybe people here are parents. Will you go and tell your kid on first day that life is horrible, that he will need to struggle, that he will need to fight to survive, and that there is no job out there? Like, imagine, like, I know some parents are doing that. You know, when I was in school, I remember I was 7 years old, and the teacher asked people, what do you want to do? So at that time, I had a very, very big dream. I wanted to be a clown in circus, so I can't realize it. And one of the kids was like, I want to have a job. And yeah, but which job? Any job, because the unemployment rate is so high that it will be such a luck to have a job. And I was like thinking in my head, dude, your life seems so miserable. Like, how a 7 years old can think like that? Like, why a 7 years old will know about unemployment rate? It doesn't make sense. And it's exactly the same thing with entrepreneurs. If on day first, you will be like, okay, I'm doing a startup, but it will be hard. So hard that I will fail. Like, of course you will fail, because you need a little bit of impossible. You need a little bit of luck. You need a little bit of everything is going right. And that doesn't come with pessimism. So pay attention to this hype. And especially, pay attention to a second level of hype, is the media. Like, I read TechCrunch every day. And one of the things I learned with the family, it's to see what is fake and what is true in TechCrunch. For example, a friend of mine, look at 1,000 acquisition articles in TechCrunch and look which percentage of that acquisition are real acquisition and not just marketing acquisition like, yeah, I sold that company for $1. But don't tell anyone, say that I sold the company because I'm a serial entrepreneur. So the media are not here to tell you the truth. The media are here to tell you the story. And some stories are true, some stories are fake, and that's fine. And because it's a job of a good entrepreneur to tell a good story, even when things are horrible. Like, again, do you think someone will get any credibility of going in the media and saying, yeah, my company sucks. We don't know how we make money. We don't know if we will ever make money, but please invest. Like, people will be like so uncompelling with that. They will be like, okay, that's the worst entrepreneur ever, and they will be right. Because your job is to come and tell the story about what is good. And the problem is that you as a reader have no clue of what is right and what is wrong. So what happened? There is so many confusion about United States because of that. One of the good examples is that we have so many entrepreneurs that come and say, I have this incredible idea, I did a business plan, and I want to raise $5 million. You know, it's a little bit hard to raise money, especially $5 million. What? But that guy did and raised 10 million. And so I will leave to United States. There they will believe in my idea. Yeah, good luck, dude. Like, I think in United States, this is one of the hardest places in the world to fundraise because everyone is trying to fundraise. Like, maybe here in Paris, you have 3,000 companies a year that are created, 1,000 are serious, 200 will fundraise, and 100 of them are the family, by the way. So, so yeah, competition is hard, but it's a small competition. If you go to Silicon Valley, you will be maybe something like 100,000 people are creating a startup, 50,000 of them are serious, 10,000 of them will fundraise, 5,000 of them will fundraise again, 3,000 of them will fundraise again, and at the end you will have one Facebook. So don't think that it will be easier. It will just be a different game. And that's a confusion people do all time long. Like one of the most annoying questions I get is it easier to launch a company in United States? Yeah and no, I don't know. Like, define easier. Because it doesn't make sense. It's a kind of question that journalists love to ask. Because it's a stupid question, and it doesn't bring any value to anyone, but people can talk endless on that. Because you can have debate for 20 years. Like you can sit two people in a room, lock the key out, and let them talk, come back 20 years later, and they will not have defined which place is the best to launch a company. Like this kind of debate you should, as an entrepreneur, never get in. And also, I'm not saying that you should not read that content. There is so many blog posts, there is so many TechCrunch article. There is so many content out there that is incredible. We are in a very special industry. We are in an industry where the best people on earth take time to go online and explain what there is in their mind. Like, let's say you want to become an expert in the oil industry. Do you know the best blog about the oil industry in the world? There is no blog. Like you cannot go online and say, yeah, the CEO of Total made that statement on his blog and I disagree with his low margin strategy. And you will be like, wait, what? Like, but in the tech industry, every top mind spends so much time online just telling what they are doing. And it's a bit weird. Like it happened by accident. I think it's a culture of pay it forward. I think maybe the hippie spirit in the tech industry is there. There is this sharing principle. And there is this very, very lack of respect for secrecy. Like, for example, we are the only industry where you can know what company are fundraising, at what valuation, and with who. Like, if you come from finance, you are just shocked by that. You're like, are you morons? Like, are you really telling everyone how much money you have on the bank account and how much you are spending? But yeah, because that's the culture of this industry. So take advantage of that, but be careful. Learn to put a filter. Learn to read things. One of the good examples that I love, I'm especially a very, very big fan of Paul Graham and YC. Like, I think what Y Combinator is doing in the world is like, if one day we can reach the level of Y Combinator, we will be really happy and really satisfied about what we achieve. But I watched all the video, and there is one video that made me laugh for 1 hour. Because it's one video about fundraising, and this video, like one of the YC partners, I don't remember which one, say, in seed, you should not raise below $5 million. And valuation. And I loved so much because the last time I saw a company raise at that amount of money in Europe was in 2000, in the bubble. Like, even when it was a crazy time and the bubble, no one in Europe was ready to pay so much for valuation in seed. And what people should read and what people should listen in that sentence, in Silicon Valley, you should not raise in seed at less than 5 million valuation. But of course, it's so obvious that he's talking about Silicon Valley that he's not saying that. But why it made me love so much? Because during 6 months, I managed entrepreneurs at the family, explaining them one by one why they cannot raise at 5 million valuation. And so a lot of them will tell sentences like, yeah, we will go to United States to fundraise. Good luck, dude. Really, good luck. Like, coming someplace with no connection, knowing no one, and just arrive and say, yeah, I want to raise in the same condition that local people, like, it's like being an immigrant. Like, you don't start on the same scale than everyone else. So being an immigrant entrepreneur is not, it's better, of course, but it's also, you have the same kind of challenge than a lot of other immigrants. So that grant filter is very important. And one of the things that you should consider at some point is that if all of that is so appealing to you, if all of that is so beautiful, if you dream so much about going to Silicon Valley, just to book a fucking plane ticket and stop talking about it. Like, I think, you know, there is a new company that is launching, I don't remember the name, it's an Iceland company, they are launching Paris, San Francisco for less than $200, and it's real plane. There is some authority that somewhere checked that, so tell me and after I will try it. And so even if you travel on Air France, you can find plane ticket for €400, £500 in London, I don't know, from Barcelona or everywhere place in Europe, but I'm sure that it's easy to go to Silicon Valley. And it's really easy to spend 3 months there and see if you want to live there or not. And I know there is a lot of challenge, like the visa, the money, and all of that. But if it's really your dream, nothing should stop you. Like, it's better to go wrong with a dream and leave it bad than spending your life with a what-if question. But if you choose to stay, if because you like Europe, you like the food, you like the people, you have your boyfriend, girlfriend, whatever, like, there's thousands of reasons. For example, I came back for girls. It's a very public thing. I was like really not in the dating American game. Like, it's a horrible one. So I decided to come back. There's no good reason to come back. Like, there is thousands of reasons to be here, and there is thousands of good reasons to be here. But at the point you decide to be here, you have to decide about a lot of things in your mind, and one of the things, you need to accept the local games. If you are in Europe, you need to play European to succeed. You cannot play American. Like, you know that movie, An American in Paris? American in Paris look weird. Like, that's the way they are. And if you try to play an American, a fake American in Paris, you will look weird. Like, you need to accept some things. There is things that are really hard to change, and there is things that you just need to deal with it. And that's the kind of thing I want to dig with you today, and I want to see with you. So, one of the things is that the toxicity is not obvious. It's not a kind of a list you can find online, and you can prevent yourself by just listing every reason against toxicity and telling yourself, oh, I will do that to avoid toxicity. Toxicity is invisible, and it's much more in the thing we don't talk about than the thing we talk about. We all complain in Europe about the level of bureaucracy. And I think that's one of the most easy toxicity to overcome. Why? Because we are all talking about. Like, when it becomes a public debate, when it's something in the air, it's so easy to fight against it. Because it's in the air, it's here, people are talking about it, we are fighting, we make victory, sometimes we lose some battle, but on the grand scheme of things are getting better and better every year. And also, when we talk a lot about something, it can become a startup. For example, it's horrible to manage payroll in Europe. We have a company in our portfolio called PayFit. We will solve that problem in Europe in the next 3 years. So in 3 years, that will not be a debate anymore. So that kind of toxicity is a visible toxicity. The toxicity we feel and it's obvious. That toxicity is fine. Like, I know that's the kind of toxicity that really worry people, and they are like, should I start my company? I don't understand anything at accounting. And you are like, yeah, there is accountant. So why do you feel, like, do you think Mark Zuckerberg is doing the accounting of Facebook seriously? Like, you imagine that? Mark Zuckerberg will come to a meeting and say, oh yeah, we cannot work on the news feed today, I have accounting day. Like, people will be, oh, that guy is weird. So that's not the kind of problem. The problem is everything that we don't see. And one of the things we don't see is our relationship to time. We have a very, very specific relationship to time in Europe. First, we like to take our time. And that's something we share as an invisible bond in every single country of Europe, including Germany. I know that Germans are very good at their marketing, and they make people think that they are very, very efficient. but actually they like to take their time in American standards. Like the most efficient people on earth are American in the sense that even if they are not productive, that's not the question. They give the feeling they are. They give the feeling everyone that everything is on track, that everything will follow the steps after steps, and that everything will be great. And you know, it's awesome. Like there is this feeling that everything is managed in the timesheet to make people feel that everything is online. In Europe, you have this kind of more relaxed management of time. We like long lunch. We like to spend time with people. We love debates. Like, we love that. Like, you don't imagine one of the hardest things with companies at the family is to learn them to avoid debate. Like, in the family, each time we have a debate in our team, it's because we don't know what we are doing. Like, debates are the sign that something is going wrong in your startup. It works 100% of the time. The problem is that people love that. People build company and start to become an entrepreneur because they want to brainstorm. They want to do meetings. They want to exchange ideas. They want to build confidence in themselves, thinking that something powerful will come out of their mind. And everyone succeeding in entrepreneurship are people that never think. This is why, by the way, there is so many stupid entrepreneurs that succeed. Because they don't have this kind of constraint. They cannot really debate because you know what I mean. So they just do. And after people are like, why this moron is succeeding? That moron is succeeding because he's acting fast. That moron is succeeding because they prefer to do a lot of mistakes very fast instead of spending all day long debating. I will give you a very theoretical example, and I will show you why we need in Europe to change our time management mindset. It's called the A/B test. Let's say you have a debate in your team that can go down to an A/B situation. Let's say you think that your business model should be subscription-based. And you have founder A that is a subscription fan. And let's say you have the B fan. And the B guy is very, very into transaction model. He doesn't believe in subscription. And let's say both founders will spend a week to debate that issue. What will be the outcome of that? Best case scenario, one of them will be hurt. That's the best outcome you can take from that. Why? Because no one likes to lose a fight. No one. And that's true in every single moment of life. And you can tell yourself that you are fine, you took a decision, blah, blah, blah. But in your mind, you will always with what if. And what if questions are toxic. Like if at a single moment in your mind, you're in a situation like, oh, what if I did that? Or what if we did that? Or blah, blah, blah. You will make everything go worse. And the worst case scenario is that after a week, you will not have taken any decision. It will take a week more, and a week more, and a week more. For example, we have a company in the family that I realize they need to change their name because of copyright infringement thing. Like, you know, they choose a name and someone has a trademark. And because they start to be big, they need to change name. And so we had a meeting about changing their name, and we brainstormed 5 minutes, and I told them, yeah, go and change your name. That's a good thing. Better than the lawsuit. And yesterday I received an email, 9 months later, and I realized that they did not change their name. And of course I did not notice because for me the decision was taken. And I called them and I was like, what's wrong? Yeah, but A like that name and B like that name, but our shareholder preferred that name, and my parents are more comfortable with this name. And there is a random guy I met in the street that told me that that name was not good. I was like, are you fucking kidding me? Like, are you spending so much energy in something nobody cares about and only you? And why? Because that's so common. That's so common that people will end up investing little more and little more. Of course, during the first meeting, they will never tell themselves, let's spend 9 months thinking about a name. No one planned for a decision. No one is like, let's take 2 years without any action and it will go well for us. But that's where you end up investing a week after week. So upside is not so great, downside is really wrong. Now, let's take the opposite management time. Let's say you have to take that A-B decision and you have 2 cases. One case, you have enough user. So what you can do an A-B test. It's very simple. Instead of debating a week, let's just try and see who win. And victory after victory, you will learn things and it will be much better. Much better than debating. Another case, you don't have enough user. And that's very common with early stage startup. So what you should do, you should just take a random decision. And you know what? Flip a coin. You know how to learn to take random decision? Just flip a coin. Really, I'm serious. It's much better to flip a coin, take a collective decision that is taken by mystery of the universe than by anyone in the team. Because you know what? Let's say you are wrong. You will feel it very fast. Let's say it's not the right choice. You will feel it very fast. Why? Because flipping a coin puts you in a situation where you have to adopt a mindset and adopt an attitude. You did not spend time thinking, you spend time doing. And when you spend time doing instead of thinking, things go much faster. And even if you are wrong, let's say you are the most unlucky guy on earth. Each time you flip the coin, it's the wrong side. It will be much better than the debate side. It will be much better than talking. It will be much better than being in a situation where you spend your time talking together. So, one of the lessons of that is that if you want to prevent yourself from losing your time, just be fucking radical. Be like so radical in everything that you will never settle for less. You will always push up, and this push-up attitude is very, very important in entrepreneurship. But pay attention to that. One of the biggest confusion that people do with this ambition thing is that they say things like, yeah, I'm very, very ambitious. I don't know why I take the Donald Trump voice. I'm very, very ambitious. And so I will build $1 billion project on day one because that's the kind of guy I am. That's not being ambitious. That's being stupid. Because if your ambition imply that someone else do something for you, you are dreaming. Being ambitious means, okay, what can I do today with my means that will be at the higher scale of ambition? And that can be very, very low at the beginning. Like, you know, one of the very ambitious things we did at the beginning of the family was to never refuse a meeting. That's very low on the scale of ambition. Like, anyone wanted to talk to us? Yeah, please. The rule was, until we get a 24 hours full schedule, we should never say no to anyone. And we did pretty horrible meetings. A lot. Like, I still have stigma of fear from these meetings. But that's fine, because that's how you build ambition. Because at some point, you reach a point where you saw enough good people that they will talk to other good people, and you can start to say no to some meetings. And you feel much better, and you push up your ambition. Exactly the same thing. Like, ambition doesn't mean like unrealistic steps. Ambition means that you are doing things every day that are better than the day before. So it can start very small. But you need to never get down your ambition. One of the very good way in Europe we get down our ambition, it's what I call the B2B trap. So how it works. You have a company, and you are young, and you don't listen to anyone. So what do? You start by being you start by wanting to be the next Google. Hi, my name is Peter, and I want to build a very big disruption. I want to build the next Google for dogs. You start by wanting to be the next Google. Hi, my name is Peter, and I want to build a very big disruption. I want to build the next Google for dogs. Okay, Peter, that seems ambitious. What exactly is Google for Dogs? Okay, not important. 6 months later, hi, I'm Peter. And because we want to build the Google for Dog, we decided that we can start by being the Yahoo for Dog, and if it's going well, we'll become the Google for Dog. 6 months later. So, yeah, you know, the Google for Dog, we realized that it was a much bigger opportunity in B2B. And so instead of having clients, we will find company that will be ready to pay for the final client. So we are B2B2C. 6 months later. So yeah, we are a dog web agency, and we do website for your dog. Well, we can do it so custom. If you pay me a meal, like yeah, I will do anything for a meal. I didn't eat from 6 months, so I'm desperate. That's the European ambition track. Why? Because at no moment you will stop and say, okay, Google for Dog was stupid. Let's do something else. Because you don't want to tell anyone that you failed. Because you don't want to tell yourself that you failed. So what do? You just make it possible at whatever cost. And to make something that doesn't work possible at whatever cost, the only way to do that is to lower and lower and lower your expectation. And doing that, you end up doing nothing. Because that's not the way to be ambitious. One of the ways to be ambitious can be, okay, I'm alone, and I will do the best services for the 10 dogs around me that I know in my neighborhood. And if I can build a monopoly for that 10 dogs, I will go and build a monopoly for the dogs of my neighborhood. And when I will have on my social network every single guy, every single dog in the neighborhood, I will go across the city. And when I will be across the city, I will go across the country. That's pushing up ambition. It's very ambitious on day one. Being a monopoly on your dog neighborhoods is already hard. And if you achieve that, it's big. But let's say you don't achieve it. You can go on the cats or the bird or whatever. You got the point. I'm not very into animal, you get it. So, so one of the things that makes people really living in an invisible toxic environment is that this ambition and waste of time also come with a structural situation where you are not helped by the ecosystem. Let me explain, because it doesn't mean anything. I realize saying it's unstructural, yeah, that's all. So you need to do the difference between fake and real work. You need to cross a line and tell yourself everything you do, is it fake work or real work? Let me give you an example. Getting a grant from public money, fake or real work? So, getting a public grant is fake work. You know why? Because if you don't have client, if you don't have revenue, if you did not prove your business model, you can get any grant you want. It will never help you to reach to a point of reality around your business. Taking a grant before being sure about that kind of thing puts you in a situation where you have money and you have nothing else. And that is exactly like taking a drug and feeling very powerful. Yeah, I got 100K, it will help me to achieve my goal, but you don't know what your goals are. Yeah, I got 100K, that will help me build my business model, but you don't have any idea of which business model. So that will put you in a situation of comfort with yourself. That will put you in a situation where you will feel good. And each time you feel good about that kind of things, you little go to the death zone, step after step. Because in entrepreneurship, feeling good, it's really a bad thing. You should feel really bad. You should be like, why I will go to take public money if I don't know what I'm doing? If you're a big company and you're working on an R&D project and there is a tax grant to take it, take it. Because it makes sense. You know what you are doing. Or they suppose that they know what they are making. That's true. But you know. So when you're an entrepreneur, you need to be aware that things that can look like work are not work. Let's take another example. Going to a pitching competition. Do you think that all this pitching competition bring anything? No, not at all. Like, they are good if you are launching a project. They are good if you need a marketing at a very specific moment. But you end up with people that are pitching all year long in every single conference, and they don't have a company, they have a pitch working session. Like, they spend so much time going to conference. Do you think professional conference help anyone? I don't know a single person that went at a conference without a specific goal in mind and get something from that. You know, there is this Web Summit scam. You know, when you receive an email and tell you, we select you for the Web Summit. For less than 2,000 euros, I give you a free ticket because you are exceptional. And we receive so many emails from entrepreneurs. Yeah, we have been selected by Web Summit. Guy, it's a random algorithm. They put you in a spreadsheet, they select random, send 10,000 emails, and 1,000 people reply. It's exactly the same principle than Nigerian scam. Nigerian scam, professional conference, same job. And you know what? Like, Web Summit team is incredible. Like, don't get me wrong, it's not a bad conference. It's one of the best conferences out there. The problem is the people that believe that kind of story. You are the problem, not the people organizing that event. Let's say someone tell you, look, you send 10,000 random email to entrepreneur, give them 1 meter square, and you can do 2,000 euro. You will be like, yeah, like, let's do that. Of course, because it's a good business. But the problem is on the other side, because on the other side, people want so much recognition. They want so much to believe in that story. They want so much to tell themselves, look, I'm special, Web Summit, select me. And that doesn't bring you anywhere, because that's fake work. That is asking for discipline. Please tell me. Question from the audience. Very good question, by the way. Some people are in paid-forward mindset, and some people are going to this conference to share their experience, what happened good, and it can create. Yeah, this is why conferences are entertainment budget. When you go in this kind of conference in a paid-forward mindset, and you are a speaker, like I'm a speaker at a lot of conferences, I'm not saying that they are useless. I'm saying that they will never bring you startup to a point where you can define successful and unsuccessful. That doesn't mean I don't go to holidays. That doesn't mean I don't like to have fun. And that doesn't mean that this kind of conference are not good to cheer you up. But now, let's say you have the choice between taking yourself to a conference or taking a week of holiday, and you don't have enough budget to do both. Which one you will choose? The holiday or the conference? Because the problem is that if people was in this kind of mindset going to that conference, in that kind of pay-it-forward mindset, it will be great. Because it will be a moment where you will build yourself, where you will rest, where you will take care of yourself. But if one day you go to Web Summit, you will see that everyone in the room is here because he thinks that that will bring him success for his company. So I'm not saying that events are bad. I'm saying they are not work. And of course, if your life is 100% work, it will be miserable life. But the dangerous thing is to don't see the difference between what is work and what is not. Let's take another example that is so common. Building next feature. Is it work or is it not work? It's a tricky question. Sometimes it works. Sometimes it's not. Why? Because everything in work can be defined in a startup with a very simple test, the life metric test. You can get down everything that is done in a company to one very, very, very simple simplification that at the family we call the life metric. What is the life metric? The life metric is a metric that separates you from being alive and being a walking dead. You don't imagine how many startups are walking dead. So what is being a walking dead? Being a walking dead is having this life metric that is not growing. Being alive for a startup is having this life metric growing. So what is a life metric? The life metric is, in 99% of the case, your revenue. And sometimes, something else. But the life metric is a metrics you cannot fake. It's a metrics you cannot lie about. It's a metric that really defines, are you doing well or are you not doing well? And the very simple one is revenue. Because if you are making money, your company is going well. If you are not making money, your company is going wrong. Pretty easy. Of course, sometimes, like Facebook, their life metric was not revenue because they've been lucky enough to have enough money to live, and their life metric was daily active user. So it's a different metric. But at the end, it's exactly the same game. So when building a new feature is important, if the feature provides you growth and instantaneous growth for your life metric, it's work. If the feature is just a nice to have to feel better because you are such a perfectionist about your product, it's not work. And that's the problem, is that sometimes fake work and work can be exactly the same thing. But if you want something that really makes it distinctive between each other, it's the growth. Are you doing something that provides growth to your company, or are you doing something that just provides you pleasure? And you don't imagine how many people are not doing a startup to succeed, but just doing a startup to feel better. And that's fine. I'm sharing like the fact that people find a way of life like that. But what happens is that most of the time, they don't understand why it doesn't work. Because they don't tell to themselves that it's just an hobby and not a real startup. So if you are serious about startup, you need to focus on real work. And one of the key that makes people uncomfortable about that is that so many people are worried to do mistakes. So many people are in this freezing mindset where they are like, oh my God, we need to think about that because if we do a mistake. And to be honest, is one of the things I don't feel very comfortable talking about. You know, I feel comfortable talking about a lot of things that I'm saying because 99% of the mistakes I talk about are mistakes I did in my life. I was so good as an entrepreneur to do every single mistake. Like if you take the fake work one, like I think I spent 5 years of my life just doing fake work. Most of the time, I feel very comfortable sharing that experience because I have empathy for that experience. I'm coming from there. So I can share with you and I can tell you, look, listen to me, like that's bullshit, do something else. But on that one, I feel very uncomfortable because I never understand why people are scared of doing mistakes. Like maybe because, I don't know, maybe because I'm unconscious, or maybe because I don't have a very high opinion of myself, or maybe because I don't really care of what people think, and that's a strength in entrepreneurship. But each time I see people that are worried to do a mistake and feel bad, it's like meeting an alien and trying to have a discussion about tea time. And they are like, yeah, do you like tea time? And I'm like, what? So you need to understand that there is no point to be feared about mistake. And I will tell you a rational definition of that. The rational definition is that nobody cares. And you know, like it's something really hard to admit for entrepreneurs, but you know, there is so many entrepreneurs that are sure that everyone in the world are watching them. Like, I have so many times this discussion with entrepreneurs like, yeah, but our brand, your brand? Which brand are you talking about? Like, you have no brand, dude. You are just a random guy talking about random things and no one cares. Like, you're this loser that thinks that he has something for the moment. So it's not a question of brand. Some people tell you, yeah, but I don't want to waste my time. You said that we should not waste our time, so if I do mistake, I waste my time. And that's not true. Making mistake, it's never a time wasting. Never. Thinking about the kind of mistake you can do, that's a time waster. But making mistake, it's not a time waster. You know why? Because you learn something. One of the best lessons I ever had in entrepreneurship was the first time I lost a lot of money. When I was younger, I had a bad luck, and I ended up with 300,000 euro of debt, personal. And I was 18 years old. So that puts you on the scale of failure pretty high. Like if you take your net asset, at that moment I was like really, really poor. And One guy told me, it's very good news what happened to you. And I said, really? Why? He said, because you're in a field that is pretty exceptional and pretty incredible. Really? Why? Because in entrepreneurship, you have an absolute criteria of truth. If you are right, you make money. If you are wrong, you lose money. And the amount of money you lose is always the right price for the right lesson. And from that day, I feel all right with anything I lost. I don't know why it stuck me so much, because it was just a random old guy, but it really put me in something. You don't have absolute criteria of truth in physics. You don't have absolute criteria of truth in math. You don't have absolute criteria of truth in philosophy, believe me. You don't have absolute criteria of truth in politics, even worse. Like, you can say things in politics that are not true or false and believe it for 100 years. Same thing with religious people. People can believe things and all their life long, and they will never have any clue if it's true or false. It will be only their faith, and that's fine. But it's so compelling to be in a field where you know when you are right or wrong. And you need to be very, very aware of that. You know, I always laugh when there is entrepreneurs that come and say, yeah, I failed my company because it was way too early. Yeah, sure. So by definition, being way too early is being wrong. Because timing is everything. So if you come and say, yeah, I don't really fail, it's the timing that is failing. No, you failed and it's fine. Just be comfortable with that. Because in entrepreneurship, it's always come down to an absolute truth. Are you making money or are you not? You are making money, you are right. You are not making money, you are wrong. I know it seems horrible, it seems materialist, but it's liberating. So everyone that is worried about doing mistakes actually is worrying about losing money. And I think that in entrepreneurship, losing money is something you need to learn very fast. Because you will lose. And you will lose a lot. And you know, like, we had a discussion, we had a discussion yesterday about something in the family that is not going well. And we end up evaluating that we will maybe lose 170K. And it made me laugh. Because, of course, like, when that's the first time in your life that it happened, you are like, oh my God, it's horrible. But when it's the 100th time that it happened to you, you're like, yeah, 70K more, 70K less, whatever. And you need to reach that mindset. You need to reach that mindset as soon as possible. And I think that United States is much more comfortable with this mindset than Europe because they are all in debt. When you are used from very, very young to take debt for everything in your life, even studying, like, how do you think they feel when they're entrepreneurs? Do you really think that they are like, oh my God, I lost 50,000? It's horrible. They are like, yeah, my mortgage for my house is 200, and my study is 150, and my TV is 10,000. So, why I will care? So that puts them in a mindset that they are not here for avoiding mistake. And if you look the big ontology of life, you know, ontology, the things behind the things, the essence of things. Like, if you look at the ontology of life, there is something amazing. You only need to be right once. Only once. Like, you can make 1,000 mistakes. You can, let's say you lose 50 times, 5,000 times, $1,000. You will end up losing 5 million. If you are right once and you make 20 million, it's done. Yeah, everything is solved. And you will, by the way, they will invite you to the conference and pay it forward, and you can come on stage and say, I'm an entrepreneur, I learned ABC. And you will feel good. And of course, you will forget about every single time you failed. And that's what happened to a lot of people. You know, and in France, we are so specialist for that. You know, we had like all this bunch of people that had luck in 2000, because in 2000, even a monkey can be right. And during 20 years, we have them on stage talking about how hard it is to be an entrepreneur, and they never did anything in their life. And they even come and say that they will eat quinoa and sell their car and blah, blah, blah. So you don't imagine how I feel better. So making mistakes is not important. Making mistake is fine. And you know why? Because you will learn things. You will learn so much that it will always be a net profit for you. Because the money is not something you need to optimize for. So let's look about the three things that any entrepreneur needs. An entrepreneur needs capital, an entrepreneur needs people, an entrepreneur needs time. The first two ones are replaceable. You will always find someone to write another check. Even Bernard Tapie is fundraising. So, like, if that guy can fundraise, you can all fundraise, guys. It's just a question of precision, time, luck. But at the end, you will always find someone to make you a check. People are replaceable. I know it's hard. I know that some people look exceptional, but no one is. Like, if I was not the one talking on stage, someone else will be here. You know, like, it's so hard to be lasting in this world. There is a movie I love about that, is Ted. I don't know, who saw Ted? Everyone? So for the one that did not saw Ted, you have to go to see Ted. It's one of the best entrepreneurial movies ever. And in that movie, there is an opening scene about the story. So they tell you there is this little boy, he has a teddy bear. No worry, it's not a spoiler, it's even in the trailer. He has a teddy bear, and he wanted so much that the teddy bear come alive, that he wished so much that the teddy bear come alive. And the teddy bear become a huge world star. And the opening story finished by, and finally, obviously, after a certain amount of time, no one take notice ever. And you have the bear in the street walking, is like, yeah, and the guys are, yeah, Ted. And why? Because after a certain amount of time, no one give a fuck. And that's true for everyone. So if you don't reinvent yourself all time long, someone will invent something else and it will be the next thing. So you cannot, yeah.
You've been talking about luck many times.
Yeah. Okay, so you are talking about luck many times. How do you define luck? I don't define luck. Let's say we all understand the word, and whatever definition you put behind that, it works to understand what I say. But luck is everything we don't explain. It's easy. It's, some people call that faith. Some people call that talent. Some people call that merit. Some people call that whatever you want. I'm using luck as a general notion of, yeah, I'm not sure why it's like that, but at the end it's like that. So, and we all need a little bit of luck. I worked with a guy that was always saying, I don't like people that don't have luck. So he was taking half of business plan and put it in trash, receiving investment memo. And when people say, why? I don't like people that don't have luck. And one day I told him, yeah, but maybe you are the one without luck. You are trashing the only good one. And he make him like freezing, Stack Overflow for a month. He was like, oh my God, what I missed. And he was like, did we kept everything I trashed? Of course not, we put it in the trash. And so he sent a message to everyone like, if you send a business plan and we not reply to you, please send it back. And he put him. So you see, like the luck question can go forever. I don't think it's very interesting. You know, Peter Thiel in his book, he come and say luck doesn't exist. And blah, blah, blah. It's hard to sustain that argument. Of course, luck doesn't explain 100% of things, but sometimes people have luck. That's it. So just live with it and it never explain things forever. Yeah. You say that mistakes are a good thing, and I'm kind of agree with you, but sometimes making mistakes cost money, and when you are young, you don't have enough money. So how do? You do without money. Like be fine with that. Like one of the points is that no one needs money to succeed. If it's something new in this world, something that is changing, something that is quite an historical phenomenon that no one noticed, is that no one needs money to succeed anymore. And that doesn't mean that at some point you don't need money to succeed more, but whatever kind of money you lose, you will be better without it. You know, one of the good disciplines, we had that talk in our partnership. There is a guy that is an entrepreneur in our portfolio and is very rich. And is kind of greedy, and I think he has a kind of complicated relationship with the money, but he has this rational argument about why he doesn't invest in his own business. And the guy is struggling for 5,000 euros, trying to find tricks to solve the issue, and he can just have paid someone 5,000 euros. And we had this discussion yesterday with one of the partners at the family. Was like, that guy is a moron. He can just pay the 5,000 and focus on things that are more important. And I was telling him, I think it's not right. Because I think money puts you in a situation where you don't optimize the right thing. And having the discipline, for whatever reason, good or bad, that make you in a situation where you force yourself to succeed without money can be a very, very good discipline. Because that's what makes you more creative. That's put you in a situation where you will think out of the box. Money is a very hardcore drug. It's so hard to get out of it. Because when you have, like, look at all the people, I'm sure in this room there is a lot of them. People start and they say, oh, I have 30,000 euros to start my business. And how they spend the first 30,000 euros? In the worst thing ever. I never saw someone that spent right the first money. And when he's out of money, that's the entrepreneurship definition point. Defining point. Because on one half, you will have people that will go on and they will be, okay, I lost that money, it was stupid, but I will survive anyway. And you will all have these people that will go to Falcon and explain that it's fine to lose that money. So you know, a lot of people in Europe, we have unemployment benefits. In France, it's 18 months. In Germany, it's 20 months. In Italy, it's 36 months. There is all this country where you can use unemployment to finance your startup and live. In United States, you don't have that. Like, do you think the amount of startup in United States is lower than France? Of course not. Why? Because people need to move on day one. Because they don't have any other choice. They have only the savings. They are really risking it. And they are in a situation where they have no other choice. In France, we call that, in the family, we call that the 18-month startup. Because they have 18 months. So during 6 months, they listen to no one. During 6 months, they watch our video. And during 6 months, they decide if they do a startup for real or not. And you don't imagine so many people after 18 months, the day they don't have this kind of subsidies from the state, they decide, they say, okay, I don't have my public salary anymore, I will get back a job. And it's not because they need the money to live. Some people need the money to live, but you can always have a solution. It's better to start a startup on night and weekend and work hard to get a salary and do a startup than being unemployed and live on that. Because it doesn't put you in the right mindset, again. And it seems to be a good thing. It seems that it's incredible we have this kind of benefit, and it will be incredible if the people have the right mindset. But because people want to avoid mistakes, they want to save their brand, because they don't want to look like a fool, they are not all skin in the game. And you cannot fake play entrepreneurship. You need to be a total skin in the game. If you don't do that, you will not go back. So, if you understand that one of the biggest enemy you have is the culture of the country you live in, you need to understand that one of your job is to fight back. And fight back is not about changing the culture. Fight back is about impeaching the culture to go over you. And I think that's something you really need to understand as a big difference. A lot of people think that to succeed, they need to change the environment around them. You know, for example, there's all these entrepreneurs that go to talk to the government to explain what a startup is, hoping that the government will change their mindset. And 6 months later, it's nowhere. Because you will not change the culture around you. In Europe, we have this very complicated relationship with failure. Not only mistake, even worse with failure. We don't trust failed people. And we have this image, you know, like I heard so many times. Yeah, in United States, they are so comfortable with failure. Failing is good. Yeah, it even become a joke. Like, of course, they are not fine with failure. No one is fine with failure. Do you think that there is people out there that like, yeah, I failed, that's so good? No, you feel bad when you fail, and it's important to feel bad. If you don't feel bad when you fail, you have no self-esteem. And it will be horrible. You will be this kind of horrible person that is not looking to succeed, is just looking to failing. When we say we need to be more comfortable with failure, is we say two things. First, we should never define people for who they are, but for what they are doing. And that's the real thing we are not comfortable with in Europe. In Europe, whoever you are, for example, you are elected in a who is who, for example, and they will ask you in which school did you go. And that will be the first line in your curriculum. It's weird. Like, we define so much people not by what they are doing, but by who they are. And who they are is where they are coming from, which family, what did they study, who they are, blah, blah, blah. All the things that doesn't mean anything. Of course, if you went to Harvard, MIT, Oxford, Normal Sup, or Bologna University, you are certainly smart. No doubt about that. But the good question is not, are you smart? The good question is, are you using that smartness for the good or not? Is it useful or not? That's a good question. And the failure relationship comes down to this thing that we are so uncomfortable with just judging people for who they are. And when you did something in the past, it becomes who you are. If one day you did a mistake, if one day you bankrupt a company, if one day we will track you down for years and years because it will define who you are. And we have this very, very unfluid structure of who you are. So, can you change that in the society? Of course not. And you know what? This kind of thing, if they don't change naturally, they become even worse. Like, I think, for example, I know I'm not a big fan of that, but there is this conference called the FailCon around the world where people come and talk about their failure. I don't think it's a good thing. Because I don't think putting in the mindset of people that failing is a good thing and having this kind of fake mindset is a good thing. What you should put in the mind of people is, look, keep your failing private. Don't talk about it and just fight back. Like, if you are not comfortable with your own failure, no one around you will be comfortable. You know, when I came back in France in 2013, I was telling people that I failed with Hypios. And I lost so much money, and I did so many mistakes. And people was like, oh my God, and wow, and you can do the family, it doesn't impeach you? Like, why you will impeach me? Like, do you really think there is a God of failure that come down on earth and say, I dare you to continue? Like, no. Like, the truth is that most of the time, this failure problem come down to people themselves. They will be like, yeah, I failed, it's miserable. And people around them will say, yeah, it's miserable. And they will be like, why are you saying it's miserable? I'm telling you that so you say it's not big deal. No, they will tell you it's a big deal. They will tell you it's horrible. They will tell you you're just a failed guy. They will tell you you are not trusted to work with. One day we will make public every phone call Alice received on me. One day we will make public every single person that said that I was dangerous and not worth working with. But you have two choices in that case. Choice one, you're trying to change the environment. You will go and fight back, and you will be, it's my social right to fail, and I will fight for the failures of the world. Or you will ignore it, and you will just keep working, and you will have people around you that will ignore it because they know you. And if you don't have this kind of people around you, anyway, you're already screwed and you should do something else. So it can be a very good test. So the downside of that is that it looks horrible, it looks hard, but the upside is that it filters a lot of people out, a lot of noise. And that's the kind of thing you are looking for. Because you are in a hostile environment, and in a hostile environment, you don't debate, you just fight back. And you fight back especially with yourself. Because you are the problem, not the others. And one of the things that come down to that is that so much in this startup ecosystem around Europe, there is this feeling that we are in a big zoo. And that startups are these little animals that we feed with peanuts, because we go to visit them. Do you know an incubator that doesn't organize visits of big corporation? Like, I saw in London, even London, that for me in my heart is one of the best places in Europe to build a startup that is way above the line from a lot of countries. Even in London, you can go and pitch at Buckingham Palace. Do you think that any duke in the room that never took a decision in their life, that don't know what it means to be free, and that live with this heavy thing of being a member of the royal community, will have any feedback will be useful for any entrepreneurs coming to that event? At that point, it's not even entertainment. You just reach the point of just being an animal in the zoo. Like the period where we were putting a human in a zoo because we have a different skin color, and people was coming and say, "Oh, that's interesting. He's not white," and that's the new startups. People go and they are like, "Oh, you are an entrepreneur? Yeah, I know. There is so much unemployment. I understand why you start your company." Yeah, there's this story I always tell. When I was much younger and entrepreneurship was not famous, I had a lunch with my girlfriend at the time, parents. And grandparents. And the guy asked me, the grandpa said, "What do you do?" And said, "I'm an entrepreneur." And the guy took his eyes down and said, "I know, for young people it's so hard to find a job." and it was really funny. I'm a little bit nostalgic for this period. Because at that time, people was not willing to be entrepreneurs because it was cool. Doesn't mean it was better. I say it's nostalgic even if it was worse. But the good thing about that is that if you realize that, you should put your self-esteem at the right level. And you should refuse all of that. And you should always ask the question, is it useful or not? And you should be obsessed about not doing things that are not useful. Why? Because in toxic environment, you cannot fool around. In toxic environment, you cannot be a little bit undisciplined. Your discipline should be at the top level, and nothing is unimportant. Because it's exactly like small details. Let me tell you a story and you will understand. When we started the family, we went to talk, actually I went to talk to very high-level Olympic coach. And asking them, how do you recognize someone that will become an Olympic champion? Do you track KPIs? Do you look metrics? Do you have that kind of, let's say, if someone at 12 years old run at less than 10 seconds, I don't know what does it mean, he will be at 18 years old a world champion. And every single guy told me, no, it doesn't work. Because you have so many things that come in count. You can change your shape, your genetics, blah, 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 things like that. And say, okay, but there is an element that builds your confidence. And there is that guy that told me it's called the last piece of cake. So what is the last piece of cake? If you are a very, very high-level sport guy, what you eat has a very deep down influence on your performance for years. And every single transgression you will do, every single breach in that discipline will put you in a position where your chance reduce. And you have two kinds of sport people. You have the Usain Bolt of the world. They can eat, drink, drug, whatever they want, they run. And that's it. They are genetically predisposed to run, and they are so good that whatever they do. Like there is this story, I don't know if it's true or not, but the guy was in the nightclub the night before breaching 2 world records. And I can't believe it's true. Like I can imagine like how horrible it is for everyone around him working hard. But for everyone that is not genetically predisposed for that, there is only one choice. You will never take the piece of cake. Because one piece of cake, you will pay it for years. Because the single breach of performance that will create in your body, it will maybe take you a week to recover, And if you look at the geometrical effect of that week over 10 years, it can be really, really hard. And so it's not the question that the piece of cake will change your performance. Of course, you can recover it. But it will be a very good clue about your mindset for winning. And because at Down Earth, it's not the one with the best predisposal that becomes the best sport people. It's the one working really, really hard. Entrepreneurship is exactly the same thing. If you are in an environment like Europe, where things are toxic, every single little step you are taking that are not perfect are steps that put you in a situation where you can be the one that will miss from nothing because one day you went to a startup competition, because one day you took a bad employee, because one day you did something that was not good for your environment. You should understand that more the environment is hard, more the level of perfection should be higher. It's exactly like going to university in United States. You know, in United States it's very expensive. If you don't want to end up with debt, you need to be perfect in class. Not good, perfect. Entrepreneurship in Europe is the same thing. It's like getting a scholarship for the US university. You cannot be good. If you are good, life out there is not right for you. You need to develop a perfect mindset. We are not asking, for being good. We are asking to be perfect and perfect day over day. That doesn't mean that you will start perfect. One of the best ways to become perfect at something is to be very bad and work hard. And every day you will spend not working hard to be better, it will be a day that will make the environment winning over you. So that fight back attitude is very important. And to sustain that attitude, one of the first things you need to do in that environment that is quite unique is that you need to become profitable as soon as possible. So let's define profitable. Of course, I'm not talking about the real profitability. It takes years to get a real company to the point where the company is really profitable. You need to understand that at the beginning, your costs are so low that you have the opportunity to be profitable, like Paul Graham called that ramen profitable. But we don't eat ramen in Europe, so people don't like this analogy. So we need to find like a brasserie profitable, coq au vin profitable. So you need to reach a point where your destiny is not in the end of the outside, is the end of inside. Meaning that you decide when you unplug or not. Meaning you put yourself to a point where you are not depending on investors, because investors are the first source of toxicity. By definition, there are also horrible people that made money in an environment that it was not good for people making money. Think about that. If you agree that the environment is toxic, you can understand why investors are, in average, so horrible. Of course, that doesn't mean that there is no good investor, but in average, they are not so good. Why? Because only horrible people succeed. Because that's the way it was 20 years ago. Not meaning that everyone that succeeds is horrible, of course. I don't want a lawsuit. So, if you understand that, you understand that one of your goal and one of your mission is to be free as soon as possible. Please. So the question is, I'm a little bit confused because Alice said that the first thing we tried to do was to solve the problem and the business model will come after. And here I'm saying that the business model should come first. That's your question? Okay. Did I say business model? That's the confusion. Making money, to make money, you don't need a business model. Like, we made money very fast in the family. Like, I think the first year of the family, we did €1 million revenue. First year. But we did not have the business model. That's the tricky thing. The tricky thing is that people confuse the opportunity of making money to be independent and the fact of having a business model. So let's define what is a business model. Having a business model is to have a methodology to provide value at scale that you can take a cut on that value and it will generate money. But to give you an image, having a business model is that you solve the mystery of your company. And so it's automatic, it's growing, and there is this scheme like I spend A, I do B, and that generates C, that help me invest more in A, that generate more of B, generating more of C. If you look about the way we made money the first year, we rent our room upstairs because there was room, and we made a little bit of money to pay the rent. And we did a party called the Overnight. We did a party with 30,000 people in a nightclub, and we did 60,000 euro in a night. I did speech in front of big company in exchange of money. Do you think it's a business model of the family sending Oussama speaking to big companies, etc.? So there is a big difference between being opportunistic in terms of revenue stream and having a business model. Yeah, that's the point. The point again is that if you understand that your mission is to be free, and your mission is to be independent as soon as possible, there is no cost of that. So what you call balance, I call it a necessity. Like the underlying question behind what you said is, I am really ready to pay the price that it will imply and the horrible life that it will imply. Like having stranger in your house to pay your rent is not good. Like, you know, one of the things we did is that we gave up our apartment and we lived in the family to reduce our cost. Who here is ready to live where he worked for a year to make it possible? Yeah, I'm sure a few of you. And that's fine. But the point is that the ones that are ready to do that are in better position than the ones that are not. So the question of balance is a fake question. There is not such a thing as a balance. You need to do both. And if you are incapable of doing both, you're in a situation where you're incapable of taking off the ground. And that's why most of the venture and most of the entrepreneurs are in a situation that is really, really hard to bootstrap and start. You know, one of the first definitions of entrepreneurship in Harvard Business Review is one of the definitions I love about entrepreneurship. An entrepreneur is someone that do things without resource. It's a definition in 1940, something like that. It's so funny that the first idea we got about entrepreneurs at that time, it was people that was solving this impossible puzzle, doing things without the means to do things. And what happened during the last 100 years is that the level gets so down that now the only definition is personal life of people. Because being ramen profitable is just about getting yourself to a point where you survive. That can be through saving, that can be through personal money. I will give you an example. We have a company that spent 6 months trying to raise money because they had this constraint that they have no saving, very young, no unemployment, and because they have literally no money at all left, if they started a company, they will be in a position where they will even not have 1 month of runway. That's a kind of very hard position. So they went to see every single VC in town, every single business angel, and basically they played the game of charity. Please give me money so my big idea become reality. One day they come here in a meeting and they told me that they need money, and if they don't get the money, they will not be able to launch and blah, 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 and complain, blah, blah. So it pissed me off a little. And I told them, like, okay, so you are a designer, you're a coder, and you're a biz guy, and you are telling me you cannot save 50,000 euro to launch? Like, are you serious? Just go out, work in a company for 6 months, put 80% of your salary in savings, and in 6 months you can start. Yeah, but in 6 months it will be too late, blah, blah. I say, yeah, it's much better to spend 6 months of your life trying to raise money. Like, of course, that's a much better strategy. They get out mad of this meeting because I think I said it a little less nicely than now. And I don't know, by miracle they think, they went on Upwork or Odesk, Upwork. They put a billboard online and they say, designer and a computer science and a biz guy together, we can build a website for 5,000 euro. And they sold 20 websites. They did it on a month and they put 100K on the site. And now it's a very successful startup at the family. And you see, it's a question of time management and mindset. Again, because people are so obsessed about their company that they think that the only way to make money is to find a business model. But you have so much opportunity around that can be done easily and that will put you in a situation where you are free to do whatever you need to reach a business model. And reaching a business model can take years. Google took 8 years to reach a business model level. Like, do you know, like, it's hard to play a game like that, but do you know how much Facebook did on the first year? Like, Facebook is the definition of a company that look like they took so long to find a business model. Like that, I'm sure that here, a lot of people think that Facebook never did money on the first year. Facebook was doing 80,000 revenue a month after 3 months of launch. 80,000. They did €1 million on first year. $1 million on first year. You can look on their SC1 IPO thing. They did money on year first. And you know how they did that? What? No, that's come much later. Apple deal, much later. No, they went on gambling website and buy affiliation link, and they look at people that was having the profile of gambler on Facebook and putting them ads only for them with gambling link, and people subscribe to the gamble website and they was making $100. Is it a business model to put gambling website on Facebook and ads? Of course not. But if you are smart enough, it can be an opportunity and it can make you survive. And even like, it's a very interesting case, because if there is one guy on earth that hates advertising, I'm sure it's the Zuckerberg team. Like even now, they can put 10 times more advertising than there is on Facebook, and they don't. But even him, he did that because survival is much more important than your own feelings. And that's the difference between him and someone greedy. As first, he did not do it on every user. He did it only targeting user that he think was good. And the second thing is that he did it in a way that as soon as he fundraised money, he stopped to do it because he did not need this opportunity anymore. But what happened? Why he did that? Because he wanted to fundraise money with the best people, not just fundraising money. What most of the people in France, in Europe in general will do is that they will fundraise with anyone just for the sake of fundraise, because they will need to fundraise as soon as possible, and they will never think about this kind of hack and this kind of opportunity. But in United States, you can fundraise with pretty decent people very fast. In Europe, to the level you need to reach to fundraise with good people is much higher. Because average angels in France are toxic. Average people making money in restaurant or anything like that, or classical big company executive putting money in startup, they don't have any clue about what you are doing. And you are putting them in a situation where they can have a word about your destiny. And I'm not talking about term sheet, right, board of director, having them. When someone invests in your company, is a part of your DNA. That's it. That's the magic bond of money. So if you understand that, you need to be very, very careful about the kind of people you let in, because it's very intimate. And you don't want to let anyone that is weird in your house, so obviously you don't want anyone that is weird inside your company. And that's come down to something else. It comes down to this spirit of go big or go home. You know, being an entrepreneur is very hard. Very, very hard. It's not easy. And let's say here everyone launches a startup. Maybe 3 of you or 4 of you will make a living of this startup. That's the actual odds of succeeding. It's not higher. It's really not higher. Like if you take, we can take the historic number of the family. So the family, 10,000 people apply, 358 selected, 184 that are actually alive, 33 of them that are not Walking Dead. Everybody else is Walking Dead. So 53 that have a real metrics. And on the 53, only 20 that are, so 10 more than 50 million, 20 more than 10 million. So you have a group of top 20 stars that are really exceptional and they will make a living of their startup. And the group at beginning was 10,000 people applying. You see the game you are playing? And by the way, the most valuable company in the family is more valuable than the sum of every single company in the family. That's a luck. So what do you do with that? What do you do with this information? You have two kind of attitude. Attitude one is that you can lower your standard. You can tell yourself, that's fine. I will do a small and medium enterprise and I will be an average entrepreneur and I will live with it. Or what you can do is that you can tell yourself, if I don't have the feeling that it will go big, I will do it again until I have the feeling it will go big. And that was the story I was telling you about the pivoting thing. And you know, I'm not a fan of this pivoting thing. I was talking in London this week with a guy that was telling me that his grandma was doing a startup, not a joke. And she called him and said, yeah, I'm pivoting this week. And the guy was depressed. And I told him it's good for her. Like, sometimes a good pivot can be a good balance for the body. But if people are, like, if it becomes so obvious that people need to pivot, we forget on the way what it means to pivot. Pivoting means you take a blank page and you restart from zero. That's a real pivot. It's okay, it's not going to the point where I want, so I'll do. And you know, in France, we have one guy that I will always be impressed by what he did, is Criteo guy. That guy did the first startup that went nowhere, easy to restart. They restart from zero. The second startup they did inside Criteo was doing something like 100 million users worldwide. 100 million users and no business model. And no way it will be big. What do you do? I think 99% of the people will be like, yeah, we have 100 million users, I can go on TechCrunch, I can go to conference, I can be a star, and I will be fine with that. And that's fine if I don't make money because I can fool around and fundraise forever and ever. Because user attraction, and one day will stop and I will explain that I was too early on the market. It shut down. It shut down the 100 million user and start again, and it became Criteo, the biggest company ever built in France. BlaBlaCar is another example that we can cherish in French. You have a guy that had this weird idea, let's take two people that don't know each other and ride a car together, even more, 5 people. And it's so hard to launch this startup that he working on night and weekend for 6 or 7 years before reaching a point where he can fundraise his first round. You imagine the level of determination? But it's not a question of I'm not aware of my KPI. He was aware of KPI from the first. He was just so sure that the KPI was right, but just slow, that he was ready to take it bigger and bigger and bigger. So you see, that's the kind of mindset when we talk about go big or go home. And go home can be fine. By the way, like if you want to be if the reason you want to be an entrepreneur is to make money, become an early employee in companies is much better to do money than being a founder. Like you can switch from company to company. Yeah. So the question is, you're talking pivoting, starting from scratch. Does it imply also that we can change our market? Yeah, exactly. So yeah, of course, nothing is eternal, only diamonds. So, if you want, you can change your market, you can change your team, you can change anything. Like you should be very fine with this idea. I think the most crazy story I ever heard about a pivot was the first iPhone. Like, I don't know if you know that story, but 6 months before the release of the first iPhone, Steve Jobs was very unhappy with the design and the feeling and the functionality. That he came during the night and he deleted every single file about the iPhone, and people came back and was like, yeah, I don't know, we get hacked. Yeah, but it's your login, Steve. Ah, yeah. So yeah, we start over. And so many people yell and get furious, and everybody's sad that the fact that it was 6 months before launching. So people said, yeah, we should change the date of launch. I'm Steve Jobs, I don't change the date of launch. So let's make it possible. And I think people don't imagine what kind of effect that creates. Because every single bad decision you took is kind of an invisible debt that keep you, like, you know, and it's hard to move. So if you go from blank page, you can build things. It doesn't mean that you change. By the way, it's not because you don't change everything that you don't need to go from blank page. It can be very good to record, redesign, redo things from zero. Even if you already have assets and things until a certain point, of course. You don't do that every month. But until it works, it can be very, very good to redo everything. And changing market is one of the best ways to revigorate your company. Because sometimes the market defines your success. Criteria example is a good one. So, one of the good ways to fight against a toxic ecosystem is to find people that feel in the same mindset that you. That's one of the missions of the family. That's what we try to do. That's why we organize dinners. That's why we organize entertainment. That's why we organize all of that are outside work. Because you need to share yourself. You need to take care of yourself. You need to enjoy yourself. It's not because I'm saying that you need to be focused and disciplined and all of that on your work, that outside your work you should not have a life. And be surrounded by people that live the same thing than you, that try to do the same thing that you, is one of the best ways to protect yourself from the outside. You know, one of the images we really like about the family, at the beginning of the family, we met this very famous advertiser that did very big brand, and she started to brainstorm about our brand. I'm laughing because it's a good memory. And she said, actually, the family, you're an isolated island. What? Yeah, you are alone on an island. There is a fire in the middle. You dance around the fire, and everybody is far away, and they see the fire, and they're like, who the fuck are these people on the island? And we love that image. And I think, I'm not sure she said that as a good thing. Because the next sentence was, and to go out of the island, you need to integrate people. And was like, what? What? On my island? No. The fire is good. Like, we are fine. Let's us dance naked on the island. Don't come. And you know what? Go out from the island. So we, like, I think the analysis was like, you are isolated. You need to open. Let's do an advertised campaign. And it was like, you are isolated, and it was like, oh, really? That's so cool. Yeah, let's do it more, actually. And I think that's one of the ways where we even become more radical about that. And we will always be more radical about that. That doesn't mean that the island cannot get bigger and bigger and bigger. The first dinner we was doing was me cooking for 10 people. And now it's 200 people that come, and a guy we don't know cook. You know, you can scale. But And I'm sure in 2 years we will have dinner all around Europe, and it will be things, lot of little island isolated like that. But the important thing in that is that it's not because you fight back, it's not because you understand what the problem are outside, that first you need to be in a change mindset, but also it means that to make yourself feel better, you need to find people that agree with you. That because if you are alone in your analysis and you have no one that never agree, it can end bad. You know, you can really exclude yourself. So being excluded from an ecosystem, it's not important. What is important is to be together and to be strong and to really build your goal and be focused on your goal. And And also, you need to know your strength, and you need to be sure that what is good inside the ecosystem, you take it for you. And that will be what we will talk about this afternoon. But the very important thing you need to understand, and it was the paid forward culture. So who here understand what mean paid forward? Very honestly. Raise your hand very high, it's for my statistical information. Okay, so paid forward comes from the EP culture, is the idea that you should give before receiving. It's a very mystic idea. So the idea is that if everyone inside the community, they give before receiving, one day we will all be paid in the future. It's paid forward. So it's the idea that at some point you will get a benefit of that if everyone in the community do that. And I think the paid forward thing is the real antidote against toxicity, because everything that is complicated, everything that is invisible, all the things I talk about during all this session, you can save them if you find a group big enough that paid forward between members and protect from the outside. And every single challenge are smaller when they are done together. And that paid forward attitude is not a fucking networking thing. Like, you know, I read that sometime, like, the 10 best lessons to network. When you network in a party, try to find value you can bring before taking value. Like, it's horrible. So you are just giving to receive. No, that's not paid forward. Paid forward is about the fact that giving should be a discipline. And be a discipline you force yourself to have every day, even if you have the feeling that you will never pay off. Never. And I can tell you in Europe, you can feel that for a long time. Because that can be the toxicity. You can give so much, and at some point you can have doubt, but you don't imagine how the profit you get from that. So I don't want to look a little bit mystical on that, but it's a very rational thing. It's at some point you reach a tipping point where everyone thinks like that, and if you are strong enough to bring your community around you to that point, it will create an effect back. The effect back will be the feedback loop of that. That will be you are in a situation where so many people around you give that you will take it for yourself too. And at that point, the ecosystem becomes less and less toxic, because everything that doesn't work well becomes an opportunity. And I think that's one of the things is that we talking about everything wrong in Europe. Because of course, there is not such a place on earth where there is no opportunity for entrepreneurs. And what I wanted to share with you this morning is that all of that doesn't matter. All of what I said doesn't matter if you have the right methodology. It can be fucked up outside. It can be horrible. It can be pessimist. People, you know, like so many people told us, oh, it's so good what you are doing at the family. One day you will save France. And I think that's the most horrible and stupid sentence you can tell us. Because no one is strong enough to save a country. Like, country never gets saved by any individual. Countries get saved by collective awareness around an issue, and that's the role of politics. Our job here is to save the 200 best companies in Europe. That's our job. And in that process, we will be ready to help whoever we can to achieve that goal. And that's first, we can measure that goal, because 200 companies a year that are good and doing well, that's a KPI you can track. And it's very important to have a precise KPI in what you do. And also it's something that seems possible. Hard, but possible. If you come and you say, yeah, let's save the ecosystem, you will be like, what? But how do you do that? And I think that on that way, the paid forward come with an equilibrium, is that in the same time, you are not here to save the ecosystem or to save anything abstract. You are here to save yourself. If you need to be aware of the toxicity of the ecosystem, it's because you need to don't get trapped in that. You need to be strong enough to survive, disciplined enough to grow, good enough to bring people with you so life will be easier. But you don't need to think about these big things like, let's make a non-profit that will gather us and save the ecosystem, blah, blah. No, you need to stay aligned. If you want to change Europe, it will be much easier to change Europe if we build 100 people that are billionaires than with any political action in anything about entrepreneurship. And I can tell you that from our experience. So isolate yourself, work hard, stay disciplined, focus, and build things that are amazing. And everything else will follow. Thank you. Yeah. So questions, guys. So the question was, you are saying we don't like failure in Europe, and the underlining question is the problem in Europe. We never are sure of where we are failing, and how do you define failure in your startup? So I will reply with something. It's a question I have all time long, because people think that there is a KPI of failure. Like, for example, I did this kind of mistake at the beginning of the family. For example, in the video I said in French, if someone doesn't have a 20% conversion rate on his page, like blah, blah, blah is below. And after this kind of stupid sentence, I will receive email for years. Like, yeah, but I have a 15% conversion and my company is doing well, so fuck you. Okay, sorry, it was kind of average. Or people are like, oh, I have a conversion rate that is 30% and I don't know why it's failing. And I'm like, maybe because you're selling crap. Good explanation. So there is not such a thing as a KPI for failure. Like, failing is just about the fact that you don't feel okay with yourself. And also it's about the fact that you feel that you are not growing. You know, one of the things I always repeat is that success is obvious. There was this debate in the US at the Supreme Court about how do you define porn. The question was, there is this movie that get classified as porn because there was sexually explicit content inside it. And they asked the federal judge, and federal judge said, it's porn or not porn, I don't remember. And they end up at the Supreme Court. So you have the 9, or I don't remember how many, 9, that come and try to judge what is porn. And the conclusion of the debate is that porn is obvious, is that porn is unanimous. Like, I think if I show you 10 movies that have explicit content, you will always recognize a porn movie. And there will be movies that are art, considered as a art movie, and half of the people will say this is art, and half of the people will say it's porn, not because it's porn, they know it's not porn, but just because they don't want to see it, and because they are shocked by their personal belief in blah, blah. So the Supreme Court said, if it's unanimous, it's porn. If it's not unanimous, it's not porn. And it's easy. And exactly the same thing with success and failure. In startup, success is obvious. I never saw a startup succeeding that makes debate. Like, you know, when you have the feeling that your phone rings more than you can reply, when your mailbox is full of emails and you are late replying, if you have the feeling that you're always late with your startup, you are succeeding. But if you are in the plan, like for example, every failing company, they always are on track on their business model and business plan. Why? Because it's easy. They say, I will do 10 sales, and they reach 10 sales. And they did not reach 100. So its success is not here yet. And they need to push harder. So to give you an image, is exactly like if you have a punching ball and you go in the punching ball and the punching ball doesn't move. That's what happened to most of entrepreneurs. They go very hard and the thing is so heavy that it doesn't move. And they have the feeling that they work hard and they don't understand. And you have some people, they pat in the punching ball and punching ball come back in the face. That's success. Like it's overwhelming. It's something so big that you're uncomfortable. And the problem is that it's a very personal ethos question. Defining failure and success can be like, people can be fine with very small level of success. Some people have a bigger definition of success. But you always reach a point where there is no debate at all. Yeah.
So I have a question about the business model. So you told us like the business model go afterwards. Like you need to find your clients, find what you want to do and why you want to do it. But sometimes I heard the question when I talk about a project, my project. People always ask me, how are you going to make money?
Yeah.
So do you think we should just? That's why I'm doing. Like I'm lying. I'm making myself confident about how I'm going to make money, but I don't have any idea. Is that the good process?
So
do you think?
I think it's an horrible process on every step. First step, you have this discussion with people. Which kind of people do you have this discussion with? Like, that's the first mistake in every toxic environment. Bad judge, bad people. If you let anyone that is not at the level judging you, you put this kind of people having power over you. And I know which kind of people are asking you this question. Are they people you respect as entrepreneurs?
Well, the first question I ask to those people is...
No. They are asking you this question.
Yeah.
There is any respectable entrepreneur that asks you this kind of question?
No.
Point. So stop talking. That's the first thing. Like, you should never talk to anyone that you don't admire. That's like, it's really, really important. You need to have this kind of discipline. Like, look, last time we had this event where, you know, entrepreneur come on stage and they launch their product, and it was at Koudetat last year. And a guy come on stage and he said about this company, and the guy said in the room, like, I don't know how you will ever make money with that. And the guy was starting to reply, and I told him, please don't reply. Let me ask 3 questions. Are you an entrepreneur? Yes or no? No. Are you an investor investing in company and judging business model of people? Yes or no? No. Are you someone that one day in his life made revenue from anything? No. Okay, shut up. And I can seem harsh, but it's important, because bad judge, bad player. Because when you put yourself in a situation where you are judged by people, you are putting yourself in a position where you play around rules. And that rules are bad. This is why, for example, I told people to never go on public grant. Why? Because bad judge. Like, you don't imagine, I know how it works. First, I want 100,000 from public grant, so I will fill a folder. The folder is full of bullshit, so I will put bullshit answer. And I will say, yeah, I do that just for the grant, and I will go. And the guy will start to ask question, and stupid question, and what you will do, you will provide stupid answer. And if you think that that doesn't have an impact on you, you are a fool. Everyone going on the dark side, stay on the dark side. Like, it's not free to have in your mind, think, answer. You can think that you can play a game and fool people, but you will always end by taking an idea or taking something and blah. And that will put you in a situation where your purity of your project will become horrible. And you know how 99% of people reply to that feedback? They will say, yeah, but sometimes someone will give you an idea. Yes, better to don't have this idea. Of course, in 10% of the case, 20% of the case, even if it's on 50% of the case, some people will tell you things that are smart. Yeah, but the downside will be the other 50% of the case. The downside will be every single case where you will be in a situation where you will torture yourself with this question. Second point, you said that you are trying to build your confidence. But that's not the job you should be doing. You are not here to build your confidence about people asking you this kind of question, and it's not relevant. You should build your confidence in front of your customer. You should build your confidence in front of your team, not in front of random people that are just here to give you feedback. And by the way, that's something you don't imagine. It's called the feedback trap. You know, if you ask someone his opinion about something, everyone will always give it. This is why asking feedback is the most dangerous question on earth. It doesn't mean that you don't need to listen to feedback. It means that you be very careful to how and to who you ask feedback. And we'll do a complete session about that, because one of the skills that is really hard to get as an entrepreneur is the interview skill. But so many people are like trapped and taken in that infinite loop where they do things stupid, talk to stupid people, make more stupid decision, and they go back to the stupid infinity loop. And the third thing about your question is that, of course, you need to get an idea of how you will make money. But if you don't have, like, I know like a lot of people think about business model, blah, blah, but I never saw a business model that is not obvious. If your business model is not obvious, there's two reasons to that. First reason is because you are not good at that, and you don't feel comfortable about making money or things like that. So find someone that is. Like everyone is not made to do money. You know, like some people have something with money and other not. It comes down to education, blah blah. So you can find someone that will be better at that than you. Or the second reason is that the business model is really not obvious, and in that case, it means most of the time that the company is impossible. I will take an example. Google. You know, people say, yeah, Google had no idea how they will make money, and it took them 8 years to find business model. Even me, I said that on stage like 30 minutes ago, so I'm responsible of that. But the problem is that it's very confusing sentence. The truth is that Google know how they will make money on day one. The problem, they did not want to do it that way, because it was a personal ethos. Here's the debate. The only way to make money with Google is advertising business. Larry Page and Sergey Brin hate advertising. So how do you do? So it took them 8 years to find the business model, not because the business model was not obvious. It's because in their heart, they hated to be this kind of person. Thanks God, that constraint create a situation where invented a new kind of advertising, was not intrusive, that was text, that was beautiful, that was intention-based, with very high level of conversion. And that created a kind of business that is unique. But it's not because the business model was not obvious. Of course, if you look at Google and you think you have this amount of user, you are sure that at some point you will put advertising on it. So I don't know a single business where the business model is not obvious. It's just this thing that people don't want to face the issue that when the business model is not obvious, is because they have a personal problem or because the company is doomed. And that doesn't mean that it's not hard. Let's say Facebook. For example, Facebook business model is advertising as well. Why it took them so long to launch an advertising platform? Because the return on investment on online advertising until you reach a certain point is very low, and it doesn't sustain the effort. This is why you should not focus on business model. But that doesn't mean that the business model is not obvious. It just means that the execution of the business model will be later. So I never saw a good company that take more than 5 minutes to decide what their business model is. Really, 5 minutes. But I see 1,000 of companies that take 10 years to build that 5 minutes into reality. Because that's the issue. That's what is complicated. Question? Yeah.
First of all, your French is so much better than your English is so much better than my French, so thank you. And second, you said that there is a big difference between how the US venture works in Europe, and does that include venture capital? Or,
yeah.
And specifically, does that include the pitch deck?
That's include everything, like from top to down. So, like, there is so many difference between. First, there is so many difference between Silicon Valley and United States that you imagine the gap between United States Europe and Silicon Valley Europe. So the first thing you need to understand is that in United States there is an accident called Silicon Valley that works with their own rule on their own planet, and it's an amazing planet. Like I know. When I talk about Silicon Valley, I always look like this fine boy talking about it. But let's just take something in the face. During 10 years, they built $1 billion company a month for 10 years until 2 years ago when being a $1 billion company becomes so common that It's even more than once a month. It's 10 a month. But until that point, like if you look at the 5 biggest websites we use, they come from Silicon Valley. If you look about every big technology company, they come from Silicon Valley. Blah 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 blah. So Silicon Valley is a unique place in the world, and there is an underlying consequence to that. I think it's the only place in the world where there is more money than project in the market. If you look at the structuration of even New York or Paris, London, Berlin, Italy, wherever you are in Europe, you always are with a constraint that there is more project than money. So project fight for the money. Because project fight for the money, it creates a certain kind of bias, like investor can be not nice. You know why every investor in Silicon Valley are nice? Because every unnice investor almost in Silicon Valley are dead. Like if you are in a market where you can take money from the nice guy and money from the douchebag, who do you think you will take money from? You will take it from the nice guy, of course. So there is this Darwin selection effect that really makes things different. Also, something unique in Silicon Valley that you will never find anywhere else, it's what I call the middle class of Silicon Valley. There is so many people that are in the situation of, I've been done that, been there, done that. Meaning that they have been in a situation where they saw companies scale and they actively participate to that scaling. So you have people on shelf in Silicon Valley. For example, when Instagram reached 100 million users, like talking to someone specialized in scaling a website to 100 million users, if you are in Europe, it will be hard. Like, good luck. Good luck to find someone in your coffee shop that will know anything about what it implies. In Silicon Valley, the guy took his phone, he was at a party with a guy that worked at Facebook, and he calls the guy and say, we are in deep shit, we have this huge traction, everything is broken. And the guy came to the office for 5 days and fixed everything and tell them how to fix things. That's Silicon Valley. That's unique. Like every single person that thinks that they can replicate that by opening an incubator are fools. Like you know how it works. People go to Silicon Valley, they see all these people in incubators, they come back and they say, let's open an incubators. Thanks God they did not see people drinking 1 liter of whiskey every day, because if that, we will all be drinking 1 liter of whiskey every day. Because they do a confusion between cause and consequence. The real cause of innovation in Silicon Valley is that people are exceptional because there is a concentration of exceptional story. It's not that their DNA is different, it's that the concentration of experience and the level of knowledge and things. I learned more in 2 years in Silicon Valley than in 10 years in France. And I was a very average low player. Like let's imagine. So imagine you are in the top 1% of Silicon Valley. So that creates a situation where the people that give you money are so different by nature that you imply everything. Like the kind of pitch deck you do in France and in Europe are not the kind of pitch deck they do in Silicon Valley. You know why? Because now most of investors in Silicon Valley are comfortable of not seeing any deck. Because they know your business better than you. What is the role of a deck? The role of a deck is to educate someone that don't know anything about what you are doing, why you are doing it, and how you are doing it, so it can evaluate if you are someone that we should give money to or not. So now let's say you go and talk to someone that understands what you are doing better than yourself. Do you think you need to make him a deck and tell him, yeah, I'm doing A, B? The guy will be, yeah, I know. By the way, B, C, D are wrong. You should do it that way, and that's the check to do it. So everyone that tried to play the comparison game are foolish. That's what I was saying, is that you cannot play that game. You need to understand that it's a very, very specific game, and you need to be fine with that. And in Europe, you have other advantages. We will see that this afternoon. Yeah, please, where the next question is.
Thanks, OUSSAMA. What's your advice about BPI and French Tech and all the blah blah like this?
So my advice is stay as far as possible, and it's a very personal advice. You are big people, do whatever you want. You know, for example, Save is taking BPI money, and they are more than fine with that, and it's our best company. So I will be very, very harsh to say that they are bad people. They are good people that don't know what they are doing. So it's, and to be honest, like, and it's a very, so my view is that you should not go to see this big institution and big people until you are big enough so they play in your own rules. And you should isolate yourself until that point. And Save will never have gone to BPI in the first year. They reach a point where they created 400 jobs, they have 400 employees. So when they go to BPI, it's the CEO of BPI that receives them. And they can say, look, we have money in London, we have money in Italy, we have money in Germany, what BPI can do. And at that point, it becomes a negotiation with the state that wants you much more than the others, so they give you free money. And they do that with your tax-paying money, that's another question. Like, is it normal? Like, if you do venture debt in London, it will cost you 12% a year, plus a covenant and a warrant. And I'm sure half of the people here doesn't even know what it means. I don't know. So, so it will be horrible condition. But in France, when you are this kind of company, you can take free money because it's tax-paying money. Is it a good thing or bad thing? That's not the question. I'm not here to do politics. If you ask me personally, I will think that's a very bad thing. But on a macro level, that's not the reason to don't go there. The reason, again, is the question of good judge, bad judge. You should be obsessed in the first year to have only the judge that you deserve and only people that push you up. For example, we have a company, I told them 10 times to don't go to BPI. But of course, you know, in a family, like, no one really listened to you. So, so they went to see BPI. And what happened is that BPI told them, you are not doing anything innovative. And they was like, are you kidding? And so the company, I can say it publicly, is SoShape. You can go on SoShape.com. It's a smart food company at the family. They built the first pancake without gluten, without lactose, without fat, that are better than any pancake you never had in your life. I'm a big fan of these pancakes. And I can tell you I'm very serious about this kind of subject. And the guy told them, yeah, well, you don't have coders. The guy was like, are you kidding? It's a chemical innovation. We build our own production line. Yeah, but it's food and you sell it. And they spent 6 months for that. And I told them, why did you do that? Yeah, but Save is raising, but yeah, again, bad judge. They put themselves in a situation where they can have lose their sight, lose their confidence, because they wanted absolutely to take profit of something that was here. And it has been a good lesson they survived. But I have companies, and I only tell the stories of people that survive, but I have companies that did not survive in this process. And that's why all of these things are dangerous. Let's take the French tech. Like, we receive emails from people that tell us that they are French tech selected company, and so they are ready to join the family. And I'm like, are you kidding? Are you seriously went through a commission of civil servant that never, even not have been entrepreneurs, never had a real work in their life, like meaning real work in the sense of being in a corporation, and you did your presentation and you are happy to have been elected the best startup, you should be worried. You should be like, what's wrong with me? Like, like if this kind of people was good at predicting what the future will, we will all know that. We all know that they are bad at that. You know, you still have this, in administration, you still have people that are mobilizing for Minitel. Like, seriously, and people go and do pitching session from that. Look at Ministre des Finances in France, or in England at Buckingham Palace, or in Germany, like Angela Merkel come in France and made pitch companies in front of entrepreneurs. You're like, what the fuck, Angela, please? Like, why are you hurting yourself like that? And why? Because it's fashionable, it's good for communication, and people doing that, they don't understand that they are the product. Because these people can go and say, we are supporting 100 entrepreneurs, and we are doing good for life. And when all of that company will be dead, we will be like, yeah, we supported the wrong one, but it's because we supported this one that others started. So they are never wrong because they never have any KPI to be wrong. So this is why you need to go out from all of that. Personal opinion.
Que la famille.